33 hours ago, observers detected something that comets do naturally but spacecraft shouldn't. 3I, Atlas has developed an anti-tail. Not a normal tail of dust and gas streaming away from the Sunday, an anti-tail, a narrow beam of material pointing in the opposite direction, toward the Sunday and toward Earth. The anti-tail extends 127,000 kilometers from Atlas's position, aimed with precision better than 0.3 degrees, directly at us, and it's not static, it's growing. Lengthening at 2,400 kilometers per hour. In 14 hours, it will reach Earth's orbital distance. In 38 hours, if it continues, it intercepts Earth's position. That's not comet behavior, that's targeted projection. Anti-tails occur when comets' orbital geometry creates perspective illusion, where dust trail appears to point toward Sunday. It's purely geometric effect. Observer positioned where they see dust trail edge on appears as spike pointing sunward. But Atlas isn't following comet orbit. Atlas is in controlled orbit, showing no natural outgassing. And Atlas's anti-tail isn't perspective effect. Multiple observers from different positions confirm its real three-dimensional structure. Physical beam of material extending from Atlas toward Earth, and material is moving. Particles traveling outward from Atlas at approximately 67 kilometers per second. That's not dust passively drifting. That's accelerated emission, powered projection. Before I show you the imaging sequence from 22 observatories tracking the anti-tail's development, before I explain why 67 kilometers per second emission velocity requires energy source beyond anything comet produces naturally, before I reveal what spectroscopic analysis of the anti-tail material tells us about its composition and possible purpose, I need you to understand what aimed at Earth means for beam physics. When you project narrow beam across space, you need pointing mechanism, attitude control, thrust vectoring, active guidance. Natural processes don't create beams aimed at specific targets. Technology does. Laser beams, particle beams, plasma jets, all require deliberate aiming. In the comments below, tell me this. When spacecraft that's demonstrably artificial develops 127,000 kilometer beam pointing at Earth with precision better than 0.3 degrees, while growing at 2,400 kilometers per hour, what's the simpler explanation? Coincidental natural process that happens to aim at planet where observers live, or deliberate projection of material toward Earth for purpose we haven't determined. Because one requires impossible coincidence, and the other requires accepting that Atlas is sending something toward us, and we have less than 2 days to determine what. Let me start with when the anti-tail appeared. Atlas showed no tail structures for 3 months. Clean surface. Minimal outgassing. Then, February 8, 2026, 3:15 UTC, observers noticed faint linear feature extending from Atlas's sunward side, initially dismissed as imaging artifact. But subsequent observations confirmed real structure. By 12 UTC same day, structure had grown visible enough for spectroscopic analysis. By February 9, 12 UTC 33 hours ago, anti-tail extended 127,000 kilometers and was clearly aimed at Earth. The growth rate is measurable. Initial detection at perhaps 5,000 kilometers length. 33 hours later, 127,000 kilometers. Average growth, 3,700 kilometers per hour. But growth isn't linear. Early hours showed slower growth around 2,000 kilometers per hour. Recent measurements show 2,400 kilometers per hour. The emission is accelerating. Whatever process creates the anti-tail is intensifying. Now, let me address what spectroscopy reveals about composition. The anti-tail isn't gas, it's particulate, small solid particles reflecting sunlight. Size distribution peaks around 1 to 10 micrometers based on scattering properties. These are dust grains, but not comet dust. Comet dust is silicates and organics, rocky and carbon-based materials. Atlas anti-tail shows strong metallic signatures. Aluminum, titanium, iron, nickel. These are spacecraft materials. Engineered alloys, not natural comet dust. The metallic particles are moving at 67 kilometers per second outward from Atlas. To accelerate 1 micrometer aluminum particles to this velocity requires specific impulse far exceeding any chemical or natural process. Calculate momentum, particle mass times velocity. For micrometer particles at 67 kilometers per second, acceleration mechanism must be electromagnetic or light pressure or something more exotic. Chemical expulsion can't achieve these velocities for solid particles. Let me walk you through the pointing accuracy. Earth is 385,000 kilometers from Atlas currently. The anti-tail aims within 1,000 kilometers of Earth's center. That's 0.26 degrees pointing accuracy. For beam originating from 11.7 kilometer spacecraft, maintaining sub-degree pointing over 100,000 plus kilometer distances requires active guidance, gyroscopic stabilization, thrust vector control, real-time adjustment. You can't point that accurately passively. The beam width is narrow, approximately 800 kilometers diameter at 127,000 kilometers distance. That's 0.36 degree divergence angle. Tight beam, focused, not isotropic emission, not broad spray, directed stream. Compared to comet tail, comet tails spread in wide cones, degrees to tens of degrees. Atlas anti-tail is 50 times more focused than comet tails. That's technological collimation. Now, let me address what the emission mechanism might be. Several technological possibilities. First, mass driver, electromagnetic catapult launching particles at high velocity. Used in theoretical spacecraft propulsion concepts. Atlas could be using mass driver to eject material, with ejection direction precisely controlled. Mass driver can achieve 67 kilometers per second for small particles using staged acceleration over meter-scale distances. Second, laser ablation. High-power laser focused on surface material vaporizes it, creating plasma that carries particulate matter outward at high velocity. Laser ablation can produce jets with specific isotopes and materials matching metallic signatures we observe. Would require gigawatt-class laser system. Atlas has gigawatt reactor. Feasible. Third, plasma accelerator. Ionize material, then accelerate using electric or magnetic fields. Plasma railgun or coil gun scaled to particle size. Can achieve arbitrary velocities limited only by power available and field strength. Again, gigawatt reactor enables this. Fourth, exotic propulsion. Whatever physics allows Atlas's propellantless main propulsion might enable particle beam projection at 67 kilometers per second. Same technology, different application. If Atlas manipulates space-time or field physics unknown to us, particle acceleration to these velocities might be straightforward for them. Let me walk you through what the mass flow rate tells us. At 67 kilometers per second emission velocity and observed particle density, we can estimate mass ejection rate. Approximately 50 kilograms per second of metallic particles. Over 33 hours, that's 6,000 tons ejected. That's substantial mass loss. Atlas's total mass is 47 million tons. Ejecting 6,000 tons is 0.013% of total mass. Noticeable, but not catastrophic. But 50 kilograms per second sustained requires continuous material feed and energy input. Power to accelerate 50 kilograms per second to 67 kilometers per second, P equals 1/2 times m times v squared. That's 112 megawatts just for kinetic energy of particles. Add inefficiencies, system losses, and total power requirement might be 300 to 500 megawatts. That's 35% of Atlas's baseline power consumption dedicated to anti-tail generation. Significant operational commitment. Now, let me address what happens when anti-tail reaches Earth. At current growth rate of 2,400 kilometers per hour, the leading edge of particle beam arrives at Earth's orbital distance in approximately 14 hours. If aimed precisely at Earth's position, particles intercept Earth's atmosphere 38 hours from now, February 11, 2026, 2 UTC. When 67 kilometers per second metallic particles hit Earth's atmosphere, they burn up as meteors. At these velocities, 1 micrometer particles vaporize at 80 to 100 kilometers altitude. They create visible streaks, ionization, radio signals. If flux is high enough, visible meteor shower. But particles this small pose no ground threat. They're dust. They burn up completely. No fragments reach surface. But what about satellites? Low Earth orbit is 200 to 2,000 kilometers altitude. Geostationary orbit is 35,786 kilometers. The anti-tail particles traveling through these altitudes at 67 kilometers per second are hypervelocity projectiles. 1 micrometer particle at 67 kilometers per second carries kinetic energy comparable to rifle bullet. Millions of such particles could damage or destroy satellites through cumulative impacts. Let me walk you through the collision probability. Earth's orbital space contains approximately 5,000 active satellites. Anti-tail beam is 800 kilometers diameter. If aimed at Earth, beam cross-section overlaps small fraction of orbital volume. Most satellites not in beam path. But satellites in geostationary belt, if beam passes through that altitude, are vulnerable. Geostationary satellites are densely packed in narrow orbital band. Beam intercepting geobelt hits multiple satellites. The timing is concerning. Anti-tail reaches Earth orbital distance in 14 hours. That's February 10, 14 UTC. It reaches Earth's position in 38 hours, February 11, 2 UTC. But Earth is moving. By the time particles arrive, Earth will have moved 110,000 kilometers along its orbit. Unless Atlas adjusted aim to lead target, accounting for Earth's motion, particles miss Earth by that distance. Did Atlas lead the target? Current trajectory analysis suggests yes. Anti-tail isn't pointed at Earth's current position. It's pointed 0.15 degrees ahead. That's where Earth will be in 38 hours. Atlas is leading the target, aiming not at where we are, but where we will be. That's not coincidence. That's ballistic intercept calculation. That's fire control. Now, let me address what the purpose might be. Best case, scientific sampling. Atlas releasing tracer particles that will interact with Earth's magnetosphere and atmosphere, creating artificial meteor shower for atmospheric research. Benign. Scientific. No hostile intent. Just collecting data on how Earth's environment affects particles at these velocities. Moderate case. Communication attempt. Particles might carry information, encoded in distribution, timing, spectroscopic properties, Releasing 6,000 tons of metallic particles in specific patterns could be form of communication. Physical message sent through particle stream rather than electromagnetic radiation, novel, creative. Non-threatening if intention is contact. Concerning case, weapons test, demonstrating capability to direct particle beams toward Earth. Not attack, but demonstration. We can hit your planet with accelerated matter. We choose not to scale up to destructive levels, but we could. Message sent through capability demonstration rather than negotiation. Worst case, attack. 6,000 tons of metallic particles is small scale compared to Atlas's total mass. But if targeted at satellites, it's devastating. Anti-satellite weapon, destroying communication infrastructure, GPS constellation, weather satellites, internet backbone, crippling modern civilization without touching ground. Let me walk you through what satellite operators are doing. Space Command issued alert, potential particle flux from Object 3I, Atlas. All satellite operators prepare for possible conjunction. That's understated warning. Operators are calculating whether their satellites are in beam path. Some are planning avoidance maneuvers, moving satellites out of projected intercept zones. But 38 hours isn't much time for large-scale satellite repositioning. International Space Station is outside beam path based on current trajectories. ISS orbit is 400 kilometers altitude at 51.6 degree inclination. Anti-tail beam aimed at geostationary belt at 0 degree inclination primarily. ISS should be safe unless beam widens or shifts aim. Still, ISS crew briefed on potential impact scenarios. Precautionary sheltering in protected modules if impacts detected. Now let me discuss what this reveals about Atlas's intent. For 3 months, Atlas maintained low profile, minimal emissions, stealthy companion, closed systems. Now it's projecting 127,000 kilometer beam at Earth, intentionally visible, aggressively obvious. This is change in posture, from covert to overt, from hidden to demonstrated, from observation to action. The timing correlates with our detections. We found biosignatures 2 weeks ago. We detected alien biochemistry 1 week ago. We observed core expansion 3 days ago. Now anti-tail develops. Each detection by us, followed by escalation by Atlas. Pattern suggests responsive behavior. We see them more clearly. They respond by becoming more visible and more active. Tit for tat, or preparation for confrontation. Let me address what happens if particles are weaponized. Current mass flow is 50 kilograms per second. At 67 kilometers per second, each kilogram is 2.2 gigajoules kinetic energy. That's half ton of TNT per kilogram. 50 kilograms per second is 25 tons TNT per second equivalent. Sustained over hours, that's kiloton scale energy delivery. Not nuclear weapon scale, but substantial, and directed precisely at chosen target. If Atlas wanted to weaponize anti-tail, it could increase mass flow rate. Instead of 50 kilograms per second, use 500 kilograms per second or 5,000 kilograms per second. Atlas has mass. Atlas has power. Scaling up particle emission is technologically feasible. Current emission might be minimum demonstration, proof of concept. This is what we can do at low power. Imagine full power. Now let me make predictions. First, within 14 hours, anti-tail leading edge reaches Earth orbital distance. We'll observe whether particles interact with anything at that range. Lagrange points, other spacecraft, natural dust clouds. Interaction produces detectable signatures. Second, within 38 hours, if aimed at Earth, particles enter Earth's magnetosphere. Interaction with magnetic field produces auroras, radio emissions, ionospheric disturbances. We'll detect these. They confirm particle arrival and properties. Third, within 48 hours after Earth encounter, we'll assess damage, if any, to satellites. If beam was weaponized and targeted satellites, we'll see communication disruptions, satellite failures, orbital debris creation. If benign, no damage. This determines Atlas intent definitively. Fourth, within 1 week, Atlas might continue anti-tail emission or terminate it. If continues, it's sustained capability, part of operational doctrine. If terminates, it was demonstration or test, one-time showing of ability. Either way, we learn operational patterns. Fifth, if anti-tail was weapon demonstration, we should prepare for negotiations or escalation. Atlas showed capability. Now either they communicate intentions or they escalate to more aggressive actions. International community needs protocols for both scenarios. 33 hours ago, Atlas developed anti-tail, not comet tail, focused beam, metallic particles, aluminum, titanium, iron, nickel, accelerated to 67 kilometers per second. Beam extends 127,000 kilometers, growing at 2,400 kilometers per hour, aimed at Earth with 0.26-degree precision. Leading target, accounting for Earth's motion, intercept in 38 hours, 22 observatories confirm. Spectroscopy shows spacecraft materials, not comet dust. Particles arrive February 11, 2 UTC, geostationary satellite belt vulnerable, ISS outside beam path. Space Command alert issued, satellite operators maneuvering. This is not natural. This is technological particle beam projection requiring gigawatt power and active guidance. Purpose unknown. Could be science, could be communication, could be demonstration, could be attack. 38 hours to find out. Demand immediate international coordination of satellite protection. Demand full disclosure of Atlas's projected impact zones. Demand preparation for multiple scenarios from benign to hostile. Atlas is projecting mass toward Earth at ballistic weapon velocities. That's not observation, that's action. First overtly hostile or aggressive action we've observed, or first attempt at physical contact if intention is benign. Either way, something from another star is sending matter toward us at 67 kilometers per second, and we have less than 2 days before it arrives. Stay rational, stay vigilant, and remember that when someone aims particle beam at you, you prepare for multiple possibilities. Hope its message, prepare like its weapon. Atlas aimed, Atlas fired. Now we wait for impact.